This is the Sergio Rodriguez Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sergio Rodriguez Show, a show unlike any other. Today, week 12 in the NFL, a week that actually is still not even completed because the Steelers and the Ravens will be playing on Wednesday, basically a matinee style, 3:45 in the afternoon to complete the week. The Ravens had a whole bunch of issues with COVID, and they're still going to be dealing with that going on tomorrow. Week 12, a very weird week in terms of the games mattering. There was really nothing that really left anyone out of it or knocked anyone really into it, maybe with the exception of the 49ers. And we'll speak about them later on in the show. We're also going to speak a little college basketball. We're going to go around the league or around the country, a couple of upsets that I want to just touch on and why they're occurring. And we're going to speak a little about St. John's basketball and how they're off to their 3-0 start and where obviously they're going to be leading into the remainder of the season. But first, Triangle Ink. Triangle Ink is the leading manufacturer in screen printing industry, delivering the finest inks for over 35 years. Check them out at triangleink.com or call them at 1-800-524-1592. Vergona Cranes, located at 180 West Forest Avenue in Englewood, New Jersey, Vergona Cranes operates 24 hours a day, providing crane rentals, trucking services, and warehousing for storage. Vergona Cranes services the New York and New Jersey area. Call them at 201-945-7209 or on their website at vergonacrane.com. Paramus Driving School. Safety and professionalism begins with Paramus Driving School, serving the North Jersey area like no other. Contact them at paramusdrivingschool.com or call them at 201-986-8300. We start on Thanksgiving Thursday, 2 games on Thanksgiving because obviously the Ravens-Steelers game was supposed to be game 3 and that got moved, and 2 snoozers. The Texans 41-25 over the Lions. After the game, Detroit fired Matt Patricia, long overdue, 13-29-1 during his tenure there. He got there after Detroit was 9-7 2 consecutive years, and he was 6-10, 3-12-1, and 4-7 2/3 of the way during the season. You know, Detroit's not a bad job, but it's a job where they're going to have to temper what exactly goes on there in terms of expectations. Because they had a guy in Jim Caldwell there before who they got fed up with for being pretty good. And they expected more. And, you know, some jobs, I believe in the NFL, that some jobs are harder than others, but I believe that the only goal should be to be really good. I don't think you can go in there and plan to be a Super Bowl team. If you get into the tournament enough, you're going to make a run eventually. And that should just be the goal, to generate that type of consistency. Because fact is, in the NFL, over the 50 some odd years that there's been Super Bowls, damn near 7 to 8 or 9 teams have 80% of the Super Bowls. So it's not like everybody's winning it. You just got to get in. Watson in the game, 17 for 28, or 17 for 25, 318, and 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. On the season, he's got 3,200 yards. And let me say this about Deshaun Watson. I've been very critical of Deshaun Watson on my show, because if you do look at a lot of his games, a lot of bad first halves. And when I mean bad first halves, Deshaun Watson is not one of these guys that's turning the ball over. Make no mistakes about it. But he's one of those guys that just floats around and then puts up a lot of stats in the second half. He's had a lot of those games. Recently, he's been a lot better. I mean, listen, Deshaun Watson this year, 24 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. So it's not like he's turning the ball over, but there's a lot of stats without substance. And there's a reason why at $39 million, he's not the guy that's going to cover up a lot of mistakes. And that team, not many draft picks and older, I don't know if they're ever going to be good, but I got to give him his due. He's been playing okay, particularly over the last couple of games. Will Fuller had a big game, 6 for 171 and 2 touchdowns, and then gets suspended 6 games for PEDs. So a lot of stuff came out of this game, even though it was a snooze fest. The one thing about Detroit that I will say is that Stafford probably needs to go somewhere else. I mean, he's 32, so he still has a chance to salvage his career in terms of winning. He's been solid statistically, but in terms of winning, if he wants to do something, this is the time. The Redskins essentially ended up blowing out the Cowboys 41-16 in Dallas. The game was closer than that. And I'm going to give McLaurin from the Redskins a lot of credit here. At 20-13, Alex Smith throws just a ridiculous interception to Jalen Smith. Jalen Smith breaks down the right sideline, and McLaurin never gives up on a play, tackles him at about the 3-yard line. The Cowboys end up not scoring. Game goes to 20-16, and the Redskins from that point on score 21 fourth quarter points and basically get to 4 wins, which is damn near 80% of the way home in this league because you're probably going to win it with 6. Washington didn't do much on offense. A bunch of checkdowns. They did run Gibson, the rookie. Phenomenal game. He went for $115 and 3 touchdowns. The Cowboys, again, terrible coaching, faking punts. 4th and 1, you have a running back like Zeke. You throw an 8-yard comeback. I mean, Zeke, you got to give me more, though. 10 carries for 32 yards. And look, they have to give him the ball because I think he's one of those backs that gets better as the game goes on. But, he's left a lot to be desired. He's going to be one of these guys that's going to have to prove a lot next year. Otherwise, from a contract standpoint, he's going to cripple you too, similar to the way that Wentz is crippling the Eagles. Cooper did have 6 catches for $112 and a touchdown. Washington now is at 4 wins. How do we get them to 6 wins? They're at Pitt. Probably not. At the 49ers. That's a tough game. Especially because the 49ers now have life due to the Arizona Cardinals losing. Seattle, probably not, even though it's at home. Carolina, okay. And at Philly, those divisional games are a toss-up. They're at 4, but they're going to have to push to get to 6. The Cowboys have an easier part of the back schedule. They're at the Ravens next week. They'll get the Ravens on a short week, although that game was moved to a Monday night game to give the Ravens more time. And then they're at Cincinnati. If Dallas can win at Cincinnati and get to 4 wins, they can get to 6 wins on the back end. But with the Cowboys and the Redskins and the Giants and the Eagles, they're so bad. Like, you just never know. Games that you think are winnable end up, losing, like Thursday the Cowboys did, and games that aren't winnable, they show up and they play like the Cowboys did the week before at Minnesota. Atlanta, 43-6 over the Raiders. One of the Sergio Rodriguez plays, by the way, 6 games, we were 5-1 in those games. Dennis, you got that? 5-1, my brother. Speaking of my producer, Dennis here, who told me that he didn't like that Atlanta pick, but I told him that this was the game. The Raiders would go in there and struggle they did. Ugly game offensively. 240 yards passing, 40 yards rushing. When you have a guy like Jacobs, that's just unacceptable. In fact, they only gave him 7 carries. Carr, 22 for 34, 215 and a pick. But here's the big thing about the Raiders. They give up 30-plus points every goddamn week. 7 or 8 times they've done that already. But on top of that, they committed 11 penalties for $141. That's too much. The Raiders cannot go in there and struggle offensively because they always have to be in a shootout. Now, look, the Raiders can win the next 5. At the Jets, the Colts, Chargers, Miami, and at Denver. No world beaters there. No world beaters there. Can they consistently make stops to at least hold teams somewhere around 25? If they do that, they will be fine scoring against every team that they're playing with the exception of the Broncos. Atlanta ran for 125, and they basically just out-toughed the Raiders in this game. Time of possession, a whopping 35-25 in favor of the Falcons. The Bills, 27-17 over the Chargers. And let me start here. I would have fired Anthony Lynn right after the game. I would have told him, here's a plane ticket. You fly on another plane, but you're not flying on mine if I was the owner. It's embarrassing. Here, let me set this up for you, just to show you how bad Anthony Lynn is. And now look, let's be clear about this. He's been doing this for a while. But when it just jumps out at you like this in a game that's so winnable, and the Chargers just have so much more talent that they're showing. Fourth quarter, down 10, in field goal range. Down 2 scores now. Early in the fourth. 4th and 3, goes for it. Doesn't get it. Obviously, now the Bills get the ball. They come down. Second time down. Now we're in the middle of the fourth quarter. Still down 2 scores. 3rd and 1 from the 7-yard line, I said. Going in. They run an option with Herbert. I said an option with Herbert. Not Lamar Jackson. Not Kyler Murray. Justin Herbert. Guy doesn't get it. Then kicks the field goal. Last drive. Needs 2 scores. Has a 1st and goal at the 2. 24 seconds. You need 2 scores. Whether you kick the field goal there or not, and then need the touchdown, or score the touchdown, you still need the ball back. Either way, you need 2 scores. What does Anthony Lynn do? He runs the ball and runs out of time. I would have fired him in the locker room. On the spot, I would have handed him a plane ticket. Herbert was 31 for 52, 316, a touchdown and a pick. The Chargers got Eckler back. He had 129 all Saquon yards. Buffalo ran for $172, but the most important thing is not the amount of yardage, the fact that they got 141 from their running backs, which I've been telling you guys is something that needs to be a key for them. They can't just put everything on Josh Allen. Allen was 18 for 24, 157. Didn't have a great game. He ran one in. I'll tell you what, he avoided major injury on a sack. Lucky for him, he was able to get his leg out as the defender was bringing him down. He had a touchdown and an interception throwing. And like I said, he also ran one in. Buffalo is at the 49ers, Pittsburgh, at Denver, at the Patriots, and Miami. Not easy, but I can't wait to see their game. I think they're going to be the team that finally beats Pittsburgh. The Giants, 19-17 over the Bengals. After early fireworks, I mean, this game got off in the first 5 minutes. You thought it was going to be a 50-48 game. The Giants came down and scored on a 4th and 1. They gave the ball to Goldman. He got in. The Bengals take the ensuing kickoff and take it back 103 yards for a touchdown. Now it's 7-7. And the game was dead at that point. The teams combined for 9 points the next 2 quarters. The Giants hit 4 field goals the rest of the way. They lost Danny Pennies in the second half to a hamstring injury, and he's going to be out a while. Cincinnati playing their first full game without Burrow. Terrible. $136 passing and 155 total yards in the game. I mean, just terrible. The Giants got to 4 wins. Again, in that league, 6 might win it. They got to 4. The question is, how do they now get to 6? At Seattle, not happening. Cleveland at home, better chance to win that game than you would think. Cleveland is a team that's made a living this year beating bad teams. Now, the Giants are a bad team, but that's still a winnable game for the Giants at home. Actually, they're at Seattle, Arizona, and then Cleveland, both at home. I don't know if the Giants could win both those games. They might split it. So let's give them a split there. Then they're at Baltimore, and then they have Dallas at home. It might come down to that Dallas game for the Giants to get to the 6th win in the division. Hopefully for them, it will be the Redskins that are waiting with 6 wins because they get the tiebreaker. Tennessee 45-26 over the Colts. Second week in a row that the Colts were down at least 2 touchdowns at the half. They were down 35-14 to Tennessee. The week before, they were down 28-14 to Green Bay. Came back and won that one. Couldn't come back and win this one. Henry, 27 for $178 and 3 touchdowns. A.J. Brown, a monster game. 4 for 98 and a touch. Also returned an onside kick back for a touchdown. Tennessee's time of possession in this game, 36-24. Can't beat that team that way because they rely on that. Game 1, Indianapolis beat them. Why? They had the ball for over 32 minutes. Huge win because Tennessee now has a 1-game lead with 5 to play. The Colts are at Houston, at the Raiders. Houston again, at Pitt, and the Jaguars. Can they get 3 wins there? Yeah, I think they'll figure it out. Tennessee has the Browns. 2 of their 5 remaining games are tough. The other 3 are cake. They have the Browns at the Jags, Detroit at Green Bay, and the Texans. So they should be sitting pretty in terms of winning the division. And they have the tiebreaker, I believe, with the Colts based on divisional record. The Vikings 28-27 over Carolina. Cousins, phenomenal. And by the way, this game saved me. I'm still alive in a suicide pool. And I know some people call it a survivor pool. And I had the Vikings in this game. Vikings, well, let's speak about Cousins, and then I'll set this up for you. Cousins, 34 for 45, 307 and 3 touchdowns. Phenomenal. You know how I feel. Normally, when Cousins throws the ball more than 25 times, they're losing. But he was phenomenal the other day. And the Vikings scored 18 points in the fourth quarter to steal the game. Carolina led 24-13 with 5:30 to go and lost this game. They had to just feel sick after the game. Stats-wise, game was even. Vikings led at the half 10-7. And out of the half, they, in a span of 10 seconds, gave up 2 defensive touchdowns, 2 fumble recoveries by Jeremy Chin. 24-21 Vikings, or 24-21 Carolina. Vikings force a punt. Beebe, yes, if you recognize the name for some of you guys, that's Don Beebe's kid. Fumbles the ball at the Carolina 9, at the Minnesota 9, and gives Carolina a 1st and goal. At that point, you're thinking touchdown ends the game. They force the field goal. Carolina goes up 27-21. Now Minnesota drives down. Cousins to Beebe with 46 seconds gives them the lead. Carolina comes back, gets in field goal range for a makeable 54-yarder, goes wide left. The Vikings should still be kicking themselves over losing to the Cowboys. They'd be right where I thought they would be if they would have won that game. They'd be at 7 wins going into that Tampa Bay game at 7-5. Instead, they're probably going to go in at 6-6. Minnesota's got Jacksonville. Then they go to Tampa, a game which the way Tampa's playing now is going to be winnable for them. Chicago at the Saints and then at Detroit. The Patriots beat Arizona 20-17. And let's say this, terrible loss for Arizona. They put themselves in a mix for that last playoff spot now with the Vikings, Chicago, and the 49ers. Murray, 170, 1 interception. Did have 31 yards rushing, but you can tell that the Patriots really game planned him and schemed him well in this game. Cam Newton was 9 for 18 for 84 yards. You talk about bad quarterback play. My God. He also threw 2 interceptions. He ran for 46 yards, but the quarterback play left a lot to be desired in this game. I mean, Arizona outscored or outgained the Patriots 298-179 in this game. I mean, the Patriots won this game with 179 yards of total offense. Arizona came down with about 150 on the clock, missed a field goal, a 45-yarder that would have given them the lead. And then as the Patriots are driving to get out of their end of the field in the ensuing possession, they commit just a ridiculous roughing penalty, which basically put the Patriots in field goal range. Arizona now at 6-5. Probably gonna take 9 wins to secure that final playoff spot. Because remember, there's 7 now. How do we get them to 9 wins? They have the Rams at home, at the Giants, the Eagles, 49ers, and at the Rams. They're gonna struggle to get to 9 wins. Those games for them are gonna be an issue to get 3 of the last 5. Miami beat the Jets 20-3. Fitz 24 for 39, 257, and 2 touchdowns. You can tell me whatever you want. Miami's just harder to defend when Fitzpatrick is playing because you got to defend more of the field. Now, look, they didn't light the world on fire offensively. I mean, they only scored 20 points, and realistically, that game was 13-3 the entire way. They scored a touchdown in the second half. They also fumbled, but Miami fumbled twice, and the Jets still couldn't even capitalize. That's how bad the Jets are. Terrible. I mean, the Jets are worse than I really thought they were. Darnold, 16 for 27, 197, and 2 interceptions. He's regressing. Gore, 18 for 74. The fact that they're still running Frank Gore as a featured back just shows you about the lack of talent that they have. Not because Gore has not had a great career, but when you have a young quarterback and you're trying to build something, you don't have a guy in his mid to late 30s being the featured back. That's the same issue I have with Adrian Peterson in Detroit. Miami, 7-4. How do they get to 10 wins? Because I think it's going to take 10 wins in the AFC for that last spot, or at least it could take 10 wins. Because if you really look at it, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, the Titans, and the Bills right now are in as division leaders. So now that leaves 3 playoff spots. Miami at 7-4, Cleveland at 8-3, Baltimore at 6-4, Indy at 7-4, the Raiders at 6-5. I would tell you Cleveland to get to 10 wins only has to win 2. That probably will happen. You know what? Somebody could get in with 9 wins. Because let's say Indianapolis gets to 10 and they go 3-2. The Raiders are going to get to 9. I think it's probably going to come down to the Raiders, Baltimore, and Miami in a 3-way tie for that. If you're a Miami fan, do yourself a favor. Root for the Steelers to make Baltimore 6-5, and then root like hell for the Cowboys the following week. The Browns beat the Jaguars 27-25. Another game where these coaches, the more I watch, have no clue. I mean, just no clue. Again, let me set up the scenario. So Cleveland's up 27-19, 5:30 to go in the game. Cleveland has a 3rd and 1 at the Jacksonville 22. Cleveland, who ran in this game, if I'm not mistaken, they ran for about between 205 and 210 in that range. I mean, they were just gashing them. 200 yards rushing. They feature 2 of the top 10 backs in the game. Okay, they have a 3rd and 1. What do? They roll out Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, missed a walk-in touchdown earlier in the game. Baker Mayfield's got the running back on the flat wide open for the first down, overthrows him. Now, look, you're going to say, well, Sergio, the play worked. Yeah, but my point is, why are you not running that ball? You can do that play if you really want. If you know you're going to go for it on 4th down, then just run that play on 3rd down. Run the ball on 3rd down. Anyway, they fake it, run it, Baker Mayfield hits. Okay, now you have a 4th and 1. 4th and 1, 5 minutes to go. You're playing the Jaguars, a team that, till this point, has 17 points in the game or 19 points in the game. Not an offense that's going to go down. They're going to need 11 points. Why don't you kick that field goal? Make that game an 11-point game. The game's over. Over. What do? They go for it. Get stopped. Now Jacksonville goes 11 plays looking like the 1988, 89 49ers. They drive down, 11-play drive, leaves 2 minutes on the clock. They get in. Luckily for the Browns, they missed the 2-point conversion. But guess what? Jacksonville's got all their timeouts left. So the Browns actually had to play the last 2 minutes of football to kill the clock, when in reality, they could have ended that game. These coaches just have no clue every week. And I got another one later on that I'm gonna mention. But I just don't understand what goes through the minds of these coaches week after week. Baker, 19 for 29, 258, 2 touchdowns. But I'm telling you, he made 4 or 5 just terrible throws. Chubb, 19 for $144. Hunt, 10 for 62. They threw for 258. Ran for, like I said, close to 210. Landry, monster game, 8 for $143 and 1 touchdown. Glennon, you know what? Let me say something about Mike Glennon, who was a guy that I always felt was going to be a really good quarterback in this league. I never felt he was going to be a star, but I thought he could be a Cousins type guy. You know, I don't feel he ever really got the keys to run with a situation. Even when he did start, it was like he had to look over his shoulder. But I was glad to see him get some burn the other day and play. And he played well. 235, 2 touchdowns. Robinson ran the ball well. 22 for $128. Jacksonville's 1-10. Cleveland is at Tennessee. That'll be a loss for them. Then they have the Ravens, at the Giants, at the Jets, and the Steelers. Can they get 2 of those wins and get to 10? I think they can. Saints 31-3 over Denver. This will be quick. We don't really have to speak much about this game. The Broncos had no QBs. They had a COVID issue early in the week. All the quarterbacks were told they could not participate, had to quarantine. They essentially had to play a wide receiver at quarterback. That says it all. They threw for damn near 13 yards. They threw for 13 yards in the game. Saints went up 17-0 at the half. Game was over. Taysom Hill scored twice on the ground. Final points of the game were 2 Latavius Murray touchdowns. Murray with a phenomenal game, 19 for $124 and 2 touchdowns. Denver had, like I said, a wide receiver playing quarterback, and they basically had 113 yards total in the game. They had 100 on the ground and 13 passing. Just incredible. Hill making his third start, 9 for 16, 78 yards passing. Didn't really have to do much, and that's really what it was down. They basically just told him, don't lose the game for us with creating a turnover, and that's exactly what they did. Saints are at Atlanta, at Philly, Chiefs, Minnesota, and Carolina. They'll be fine moving forward in 4 of those 5 games. Maybe one of those 4, they're really going to have to sweat it out, but they should be okay. They'll get to 12 wins without a problem. It's just a matter of them then making sure that Green Bay, doesn't get to that magic number, because Green Bay's schedule is really weak down the stretch. And the playoff picture in the East is a little more convoluted, because the Saints, Green Bay, Seattle, and whoever the winner of the East is, if you want to call them the winner or the survivor of the worst, comes out, they're in. Now, you have 3 other playoff spots. Tampa 7-5. They're probably going to get in. Schedule's weak down the stretch. They'll get to 10 wins. Rams are 7-4. I expect them to get in. Now, you have Arizona at 6-5, and then you have Minnesota, Chicago, and the 49ers are all 5-6. So, man, Minnesota's the team that's kicking themselves right now. When they saw that the Patriots beat Arizona, they had to be kicking themselves about losing to the Cowboys. The 49ers 23-20 over the Rams. And to quote my cousin Alex, the 49ers own the Rams. I mean, they just do. They just do. Goff, terrible in this game. 19 for 31, $198, and 2 interceptions. Once that game was 7-3 at the half, you just knew the 49ers were going to win. Why? What do I tell you every week? I tell you 2 things every week about the Rams. They have the least deficiencies of all the NFC teams. But of the better teams, they get the least consistency at the quarterback position, number 1. But number 2, they can only score in the first half when they're tricking you, when they can scheme you. Their touchdowns in the second half always seem to be of just extraordinary play, a missed tackle. They just can't score without fooling you. And once those first scripted plays are out of the way, they struggle offensively. And they did in this game. Mullen for the 49ers, 24 for 35, 252. They ran for $115. Deebo Samuel, nice game, 11 for 133. The Rams blew a chance to really set themselves up as a division winner, because now they're a game behind Seattle. And although they do play them and I believe it's the second to last game, now you have to travel to Arizona. You do get the Patriots and the Jets at home. Okay, you're going to probably win both those games. And you have Arizona, but you have Arizona twice. You're probably not going to beat them twice. Now you put all the eggs in the basket to win the division of having to go win in Seattle. Kansas City 27-24 over Tampa. You know what? The one thing that shocked me about this game, for all the yardage that Kansas City put up, they only scored 27 points. Mahomes 37 for 49, 462, and 3 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, phenomenal. 13 for 269 and 3 touchdowns. They should have run the ball more. They only ran the ball 16 times this game. For a team that led the entire game, they only ran 16 times and they only had 59 yards from the ground game. Kansas City sometimes tends to play that, they teeter on that throwing the ball too much. And I know the coaching staff has always been known for that, but they got to do a little bit more on the ground to help Mahomes, especially with, so they could use him in play action. Brady, 27 for 41, 345, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Ran the ball for 75 yards as a team. Gronkowski, 6 for 106. But let me say this about Tampa. Play calling, terrible. Terrible. They don't run enough play action for Brady. They use no motion. So therefore, there are no pre-read snaps. Every read that Brady makes is after the ball gets snapped. They are not putting these guys in position to utilize the talent they have on that offense. Now, look, Brady's thrown damn near 30 touchdown passes, and he does have, 11 interceptions, which is still, 19 or 20 less than Jameis Winston. But you have to do a better job of putting that team offensively in a better situation. And the fact is that Arians just isn't. Tampa Bay has a bye now next week, and then they have Minnesota, at Atlanta, at Detroit, and Atlanta. So they're going to get to 10 wins. I mean, that's without a doubt. And that's where we expected them to be, so it's not a big deal. Kansas City, on the other hand, is 10-1. Denver, at Miami, at the Saints, Atlanta, and the Chargers. If they beat the Saints, they're going 15-1. The question is, will Pittsburgh lose twice? I believe Pittsburgh will lose to Buffalo in 2 weeks. Can they get another loss on that schedule? Green Bay, 41-25 over Chicago. Rodgers, 21 for 29, 211, 4 touchdowns. 27-10 at the half, game over. Game over. And then especially over when they came out the half and scored the first 14 to really blow the game open. Chicago had 2 window dressing touchdowns in the fourth. Mitch Trubisky starting for Foles, who was hurt, 26 for 46, 242, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But like I said, most of that was window dressing. Montgomery did. Finally, the Bears ran for 100 yards. He had 11 carries and 103 yards. Chicago has Detroit, Houston, at Minnesota, and the Jaguars. Can they get to 9 wins? Can they win 4 out of the last? Can they win 4 games there to end the season? That's gonna be a grind for them, because offensively, watching the Bears offense is like going to the dentist. Green Bay, Philadelphia, at Detroit, Carolina, Tennessee, at Chicago. I think they're probably going to win every game there, because they do get Tennessee at home, although Green Bay tends to struggle with teams that are physical. Seattle, 23-17 in the Monday night game. At some point, the Seahawks realized they weren't going to lose this game unless they gave it away. Wilson, 22 for 31 and 230, 1 touchdown. DK, big game, 10 for $177. I mentioned to you guys about coaching and not kicking field goals. Here's another one. Seattle's first 2 drives got turnover on downs. Why? Because they won't kick field goals. So instead of cruising to a win, again, these coaches, they refuse to take the points when they're there. And then they wonder why all these games in the NFL are within 1 score. This is it. That is it right there. When you're playing a team like the Eagles that cannot move the ball and cannot score, why are you not scoring on every possession? Even if it's 3, it adds up. I'll tell you, Wentz is bad right now. 25 for 45, 2 touchdowns and an interception. And now look, he's getting sacked at record pace, and the coaches are failing him. But he's off target with so many throws. So many throws. And here's the other thing that the coaching staff, here's where the coaching staff is failing him. They ran the ball 14 times yesterday. 14. You can't just sit there and it almost feels like the coaching staff gave up on Wentz. They're just basically, there's no scheme to their play calling. They don't set anything up. In a lot of ways, the difference between Tampa and the Eagles in their play calling is that Tampa's got players that can eliminate mistakes and the Eagles don't. Whether through injury, ability, etc. They just don't. Play calling is terrible. Terrible. They're letting Wentz down. Now, look, like I said, I get it. He hasn't played well all year. But he's getting one of the worst 2 or 3 coaching jobs this year has been done with Philadelphia. And the weird thing is that defense continues to play for that staff. But offensively, they've given up. Philadelphia's at Green Bay. That's a loss. Now, they're 3-6-1. That tie is going to loom large. They're going to lose at Green Bay. They have the Saints at home. I think they could get the Saints at home because the Saints are going to struggle to score, and that game could shape up for Philly. So let's give them a win. That's 4. At Arizona, that's a loss. Can they get at Dallas and Washington and get to 6? I don't know. Seattle, home to the Giants, win. Jets, win. At Washington, toss up. I'm going to give them a win. The Rams, a loss. At the 49ers. They're going to win that division. Because they're going to get to 11 wins, and they're going to be playing from in front. Loser Auto Body, located at 27 Austin Street in Newark, provides top-of-the-line service to make your collision experience as smooth as possible. Go to Lucimer.com or call them at 973-824-0113. M&J Luxury Inc. For the most unique experience in the medical transportation business, call M&J, located in New York City with over 1,000 cars at your disposal. Call them at 718-278-2222 or 914-484-7264. College basketball kicked off last week. And I'll tell you the one thing that I think is going to be a theme all year, upsets. There's going to be a lot of upsets this year because of the way the scheduling is going to be shaped, is going to shape up. You're going to get a lot of cancellations, a lot of basically pickup games. It's almost like high school basketball now. Somebody gets canceled. 2 days later, oh, you got canceled, we got canceled, let's play. You're going to get a lot of teams not prepared to play. If you're a gambler, you're going to get a lot of overs in these games because defensively, scheming is going to be tough for a lot of these guys. You're not going to have 3, 4, 5 days to prepare for a game. And realistic, especially in the non-conference. And even when the conference game starts, a lot of people are going to end up crossing over to play because you don't want to go, 7, 8, 9, 10 days at a time without a game. But look at these upsets that really just jump out at you. San Fran beat Virginia. Now, Virginia is always a candidate to get upset because they play every game so low scoring. Really, you shoot 35%, you're going to be in a game with them. But they got upset. Pitt lost at home to St. Francis by 10. Georgia Tech lost to Mercer again at home by 10. Now, Mercer is really good. And Greg Gary, who's the coach there, who was at Purdue, is a great offensive coach, and he's going to do a great job at Mercer. But again, they went to them and beat them. UNLV lost to Montana State. Liberty beat Mississippi State and South Carolina. Richmond beat Kentucky. Now, to be fair, Richmond's really a top 25 team. They should be a top 25 team, and they probably will be when the rankings come out. They really should be because they'll win the Atlantic 10. But again, and I think today, right before I went on the air to film, UC Riverside beat Washington. Now, Washington's not great, but again, those are games that's going to be the case this year. You're going to get a lot of upsets. Now, let me give you a couple of minutes here on my squad, St. John's. 3-0, survived St. Peter's. Big shot by Vince Cole in that game. Beat LaSalle. Go to Connecticut at Bubbleville and beat Boston College. They survived the first two games, even though they were sloppy as hell with the ball. And BC, they got sloppy the last 10, 12 minutes. Not having Dunn became an issue. It became an issue. Dunn, who obviously, as most of you St. John's followers know, is out with a concussion. He got hurt during the St. Peter's game, towards the end of the St. Peter's game. He's been out. Now, let's look at the team. A couple of things that jump out at me. This team could end up with 5 guys in double-digit scoring. They're getting a lot of points from a lot of different places. That's good, particularly with the style that Coach Anderson wants to coach. The ability to put the ball in the basket from different spots, because the lineups sometimes are shuffled, becomes ultra important. Champagny missed first 2 games, came back, looked great. He looked like he really put a lot of work in, not so much in his jump, especially with his jump shot, I'm saying, but he looked more under control and looked like he developed now the ability to get the shot off. That's going to be very important moving forward. Posh Alexander is going to be a 4-year player. He looks phenomenal. Phenomenal. Couple of dumb mistakes towards the end of the BC game. He tried to dunk a ball and just threw it off the backboard. A couple of shaky turnovers there, forcing a couple of things. But you know what? I just think a lot of that, he plays so hard, and not having done, to give him a blow handling the ball really, wore him down a little in that game. But man, is he going to be a fun college player to watch over the next 4 years. Vince Cole can score. But he needs to understand what's a good shot and what isn't at this level. I see a little too many step-back jumpers. He's going to have to tone that down a little and understand that in this offense, he's going to get his shots either way, because the offense is going to allow you to freelance a lot. But you just can't just take it can't be I'm coming down and I'm definitely going to put up a shot this possession. But he looks like he was built like a legitimate scorer at this level. Greg Williams, solid as they come. Stat stuffing, giving you everything. And, he was very, very important down the stretch in a couple of the games. He just does everything right, understands his limitations, which is probably the most important thing you can say for a college player in the NCAA. Better than I thought. Got a chance to watch him now 3 games. He does more things on the floor than I thought. And you know what? He's a guy that I believe as the season goes on and he realizes that he's going to get a lot of touches anyway, just because of the volume of shots that St. John's puts up. And he realizes he's going to get the ball, even if it's through a rebound, he'll be fine. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that did jump out at me the other day. Adawasu, just total stat stuffer. Very unsung. He's going to be one of those kids that plays 4 years, doesn't get any credit because he's not going to be one of these 25 to 30 point scorers in college, or not. He's not going to be flashy, but man, the kid's a pit bull. He does everything well. He passes well. He drives well, plays under the control, looks like a sophomore or a junior already at this young age, and he's built like a linebacker. Earlington, he'll be fine. He hasn't done much the first couple of games, but he'll be fine. Dunn's going to be good. The one thing I have to question here, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know the answer. I have to make a phone call to find out about this, is Josh Roberts. I mean, he just really hasn't really played much, and he's been really just there. I don't know if he's not recovered from the injury and they're just pacing him, but I got to find out what's going on. Before we move on, I want to give a shout out to my man on Twitter, at Polls Red Storm, who ran a nice poll this week and involved me. I appreciate it, and thank you very much. He keeps all the St. John's fans engaged. I appreciate your work, and I love reading what you put on, my man. At Polls Red Storm, follow him. Fairfield Physical Therapy, located in the Fairfield Commons Suite G106, is owned and operated by Justin Solotov, who has over 20 years of experience in the field of orthopedic physical therapy. Call Justin at 973-276-1313 and stop living with pain and discomfort. Epic Car Service, recognized as the #1 car service in New York City by medical transportation standards, located in the Bronx, New York, Epic Car Service will make your commute a safe and comfortable experience. Call Epic at 718-401-3742 or at 844-666-6278. The Week 13 Sergio Rodriguez gambling forecast. And like I said, we were 5-1 last week, 40-22-2 this year. We are just paying for college tuitions for everybody. Every parent should listen to our show and follow our picks on Instagram at The Sergio Rodriguez Show. But the Week 13 forecasted picks or breakdown is brought to you by Stan Sports. Stan Sports Center is your local full-service authorized team dealer for all of your favorite sports brands. Family owned and operated, Stan's has proudly supplied apparel, uniforms, equipment, varsity jackets, and much more for the entire tri-state area since 1946. Find them online at stansportsctr.com and contact them today for your sporting goods needs. Tell Alexis or Dan that Sergio sent you. Detroit at Chicago. Chicago's a 3-point favorite. You know, this is going to be one of those games you might want to stay away from because after the firing of Matt Patricia, you don't know what you're going to get from Detroit. Miami's an 11.5-point favorite over Cincinnati. I don't know if Miami's good enough with that offense to give 11.5 points to anyone in this league. Indianapolis is a 3-point favorite at Houston. The Colts, if that line stays at 3, the Colts are going to lose that game. Houston's the play in that game. Minnesota's a 9.5-point favorite over Jacksonville. There's probably going to be a lot of points scored in that game. Minnesota is desperate to get that game. Minnesota is definitely the play in that game if you're going to touch that game right now. Las Vegas, the Raiders are an 8-point favorite on the road against the Jets. Look, we know one thing. The Raiders are going to score, especially after that bad offensive display. The question is, are the Jets going to be able to keep it within 8 points? This might be the last chance the Jets get at a win. I thought it was last week against Miami, but it's probably now this week. New Orleans, a 3-point favorite at Atlanta. If this stays at 3, Atlanta is the play. If it goes up, New Orleans is the play. Tennessee's a 5.5-point favorite over Cleveland. Expect Tennessee to blow Cleveland out. Yes, I said blow them out. Like I said earlier on the show, Cleveland's a team that has feasted on bad teams, and now they're playing a good one. Seattle's a 10-point favorite over the Giants. That line opened up at 7.5. It's already up to 10. Seattle rolls in this game. The Rams are a 3-point favorite on the road against Arizona. Someone told me that the Rams had a little bit of dissension in the locker room, couple of defensive and offensive guys going at it about this. And you know what? Somebody else must have heard this, because there's no way that line should be 3 points. If that line's probably going to closer to 2 than to 3. If it goes up, bet the Rams. If it stays like that or goes down, don't be shocked if Arizona wins that game. Green Bay is a 9.5-point favorite over Philadelphia. Green Bay is going to win the game. Do they cover the 9.5? Look, the problem with those games is that you expect you could get a backdoor cover. Look, Philly did that last night. They scored a late touchdown and got a backdoor cover. You just never know, but you do expect Green Bay to win the game. The Chargers and the Patriots are a pick 'em. I like the Chargers in this game. I just believe that offensively they're going to figure out a way to score, and I just don't trust Cam Newton. Kansas City's a 2-touchdown favorite over Denver. Man, 14 points. You know, the funny thing is that game will end up going over. That's probably where the play is going to be, to go over. Denver will come out throwing the ball, especially after not having really any semblance of offense this week because of the wide receiver that had to play quarterback. The over is definitely the play in that game. Buffalo is traveling to San Francisco. Here's where this division is going to get tricky. Mark this down. San Francisco wins this game. The 49ers win this game. And then if Arizona doesn't win, that league's going to get tight, because I do expect the Bears to win, and I do expect Minnesota to win. So everybody that's going to be vying for that spot, that final spot, is probably going to win, and it's going to get good coming down the stretch. Pittsburgh is a 9.5-point favorite over Washington. Pittsburgh should be fine in that game. We don't even know what's going to happen. They are going to be playing on a short week. The other game that we don't have a line for right now is the Cowboys are also going to be playing on Monday night with the Ravens. But there's no line in that game because there's really no quarterback listed. They know Lamar Jackson's not going to play, but who's it going to be? Is it going to be RG3 again? They don't know. So Vegas has not put out a line for that game yet. Thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Sergio Rodriguez Show. And remember that the Sergio Rodriguez Show is a show unlike any other.